19 celebrities, 3 traitors, a fart, a side-eye and everything in between. All of this has come to this point in episode 9 where we have 2 traitors left against 3 faithfuls. Could one or both of the traitors actually pull off the win when it looks like they may be rumbled by both Joe and Nick? Would either Alan or Kat throw each other under the bus to win? Where would David's vote lie? These were all questions I had. There's no certainties in this game, we only get a picture of what's going on. Just when you think it can go one way, someone does something to completely turn things in another direction. Given all this, I don't think I saw coming what actually happened. Before the mission, the chatter at first was about how far they had all come and all the niceties that are usually talked about in the last episode. Then conversations turned to who they did or didn't think were traitors or faithfuls. A couple of times this season, some of the dynamics have come as a surprise because it wasn't part of the story production were trying to tell. You get some dynamics that are more featured than others. Yes, everyone talks to each other, but sometimes you don't get a full understanding of the closeness of a dynamic until one of them is eliminated. The last mission, which was fun to watch, gave the players one last chance to add a substantial amount to the prize pot. A successful mission could see up to £20,000 added. There were 4 train carriages and each carriage had something they had to solve in order to get a key. The 4 keys would unlock 4 crates that each contained £5,000. They needed to do all this in 20 minutes. There was an added element that would make things a bit more urgent. There were explosives on the train that would detonate at the end of the time limit, so they needed to get off the train and get to Claudia before they exploded. The first carriage took a lot out of the 20 minutes, so they were really up against it by the time they got to carriage 4. I kept laughing during carriage 4 when the lid of the wooden box kept hitting Nick and Joe's head. They stopped showing the time, so the skeptic in me was wondering if someone was a little economical with how long they truly had before the actual detonation. They were technically still running towards Claudia when the train exploded. As they had all 4 bags, they added £20,000 to the prize pot, taking the total up to £87,500. Now we just had to see if the money was going to be split or if we would see a sole winner. Before this episode, I thought David would be the deciding vote, but there was a moment before the round table that I was starting to think the deciding vote might actually be Joe. Not because he doesn't think Alan or Kat are traitors, but because he had actually discussed the possibility of voting for David with Nick, then later with Alan and Kat. Though the chat with Nick was just running through scenarios rather than it being a real plan. Which way things were actually going to go was anyone's guess. I wasn't going to try and predict it, not with my track record in this season. I thought going into the round table, Nick's first target was going to be Kat, but discussions wise it seemed to be more on Alan. I didn't think both Nick and Joe would reveal that he was the other player they were looking at. I thought they might have given Alan a false sense of security until the fire of truth. David was still on Joe and I wondered how much that would end up being a factor later on. I was even less sure about who was going for who. While everyone was given their 2 cents about who they suspected, Kat was less forthcoming, mostly only speaking when questioned rather than proactively adding anything about who she was suspicious of, something that Kat was accused of during the discussions. With David and Nick voting for Kat while Alan and Kat voted for David, it came down to Joe's vote. Joe voted for Kat, which meant they banished their second traitor, but they just didn't know it. It was not only her quietness that went against Kat, but being the last woman wouldn't have helped either. Even though it wasn't really mentioned, there's always this thought that there would be at least one from each gender as a traitor, though UK Season 3 totally ignored that. There was a little doubt from Nick that seemed to appear with Joe's words to Kat when he revealed his vote for Kat.
I'm sorry, Kat, but I've changed my mind.
Would these be the words that will wreck the Faithful's road to victory? We had the fire of truth or the end game, whichever way these editions like to call it. All 4 of them voted to banish. David's ongoing suspicion saw him vote for Joe and so did Alan, while Joe voted for Alan. The more time it was taking before they showed Nick's vote, the more convinced I was that Nick was going to vote for Joe. Joe's words to Kat really did a number on Nick, or was it really just that? I wondered if what Alan said before they wrote the names down made Nick think twice. It felt like there was some context missing and maybe Nick had more doubt on Joe than what was previously shown. I thought Joe and Nick were on the same page, and so did Joe. Like I said before, just when you think it's gonna go one way, it ends up going somewhere else. I didn't think David would end up being in the top 3, especially as he was nearly banished earlier in the season. Could Alan actually do this? He looked very locked in. It's probably the most serious I've seen him during this game. Alan, David and Nick all chose to end the game, and my jaw dropped. I thought maybe it would end with 2 players. I couldn't help but wonder if the fact this was all for charity ended up playing a part in this decision. I couldn't believe Alan actually pulled it off. I mean, he couldn't say with a straight face that he was a faithful and laughed in the previous episode. He sweated so much during the earlier parts of the game. I sat in amazement because this did not look like this was going to happen. You can't say Alan didn't work hard for this. He had to do both murders in plain sight and battled through the game against himself. I mean, David and Nick were comforting Alan after he revealed his role. This meant Alan had won £87,500 for Neuroblastoma UK, which is a children's cancer charity. I know I wanted Alan as a traitor for the laughs, but this was not something I was expecting. I totally underestimated Alan because I thought he would be found out quickly. Alan only ended up with 2 votes throughout the whole show. At least I was correct about there being a comedian in the final. The odds were very much in my favour because of the amount of comedians in the whole game, and we got 2 in the final with Alan and Nick. I was pretty wrong elsewhere. As far as this season goes, these were some big established names that they managed to get, and if I wasn't already a fan of the show, I would have tuned in because of them. While it wasn't the best from a storytelling point of view and Faithful's gameplay, I did enjoy it as a whole. There could have been better storytelling from the edits to give more context into certain dynamics and what other factors led Nick to vote for Joe. Alan and Celia were the brightest sparks for me, and I got to learn about some new people like Kat and Lucy. The renewal was already announced, so it will be interesting to see who they get for season 2. If they can get some heavy hitters and stay away from some of the peeps only known for reality TV, then that will go a long way. We will have the Traitors UK season 4 before then, which scheduling permitting I shall be covering. Right now I'm currently covering Canada season 3, but I will be looking to post some other Traitors related videos before UK season 4 starts. Until next time,